Today I'm going to talk a little bit about my marriage. Somebody left a comment in one of my other videos just saying, why don't you talk about your marriage, what went wrong, what you would do next time? And I've been thinking about it for the last few days, and I've found myself getting worked up at things that haven't worked me up for a long time, and I realised it's because I've been thinking about this video and arguably probably overthinking it, as I do with most things. So I've got a couple of bullet points here. I'm just going to talk about it a little bit. What happened, bit of brief history, why things fell apart, why I feel things fell apart, my part in that, and then maybe what I would do differently. Might be a bit of a long one, and it might be a bit rambly, but I need to do it because I'm feeling off at the moment, and it's not good for me. Excuse me. So as of recording, it's February 2025. Last year, October 24, would have been our 20th anniversary. And we have now been separated. It was 3 years in October last year, was our third year of separation. And we're now divorced. So we had 17 years together, and as with whenever you're with anybody for that kind of length of time, you know, a lot happens. You go through a lot, and I sort of have tried over the last couple of years to try and pinpoint, I suppose, key events where things changed. One of the biggest key events was 10 years ago. It'd be 11 years in July this year. So I was diagnosed with sepsis, and I was in hospital for 6 weeks. And when I went in, I mean, I had no idea whether I was going to come out of there alive. And my wife the same, my kids. It was a hard time. And when I came out of that, it seems to almost be the trigger point for me, I guess, where I go, that's where things started to deteriorate. We'd just moved into a new home, mortgaged ourselves up to the hilt. So the pressure was on. I was the only earner in the household. We took the choice when my oldest was born for my wife not to go back to work. So she was a stay-at-home mum. So obviously the pressure was on me then to continue to earn. So when I came out of hospital and life started to get back to normal, I basically had a breakdown. I was a retail manager for a very large, well, it's now a multinational company, well paid. And I still remember, I'd only been back at work for a short period of time. One of my colleagues just said, how are you? And I just broke down, absolutely broke down. And it started to fall apart, I suppose, from there. We had our second child, was nearly 18 months, I suppose, or thereabouts, when I had sepsis. And as the sepsis thing sort of moved into the background, and my youngest started to get of age to go to school, as he was in school, things became apparent that things weren't right. Long story short, he ended up having 2 years out of school from a very early age, and we got him. He was finally diagnosed. He's autistic, and that was the next big thing that came into our lives. So that was around COVID time as well. It cost us a lot of money for the processes. We had to go private on a lot of the processes, speech and language, etc., etc. And my wife took the weight of that. She was the one that dealt with most of that while I was out, obviously, at work. and work was getting more and more pressured as time went on, and I was beginning to really struggle. Well, I got to a point where I hated so much. I used to look in the mirror in the mornings or the evenings, whenever it was, and I would look back at the person. I would look at the person in the mirror, and I would hate him. Genuinely, I hated him. I hated how I felt every day. I think there's an element of resentment on both sides that I. So I've just realised that I've just spent the best part of 10 minutes talking, and for some reason it capped out at 8 minutes on the last segment. So let's try again. Yeah, so I think that there was a lot of resentment on both sides. I don't know. I can't fucking do this. And as things move forward with my youngest, I don't know. I completely lost where I was up to now. For fuck's sake. Things got harder and harder, and COVID came along, and it was really good times. We had this massive big paddling pool in the garden. It took about 6 hours to fill it. Weather was great. You think things are really, really good, and then at the end of that year, that's when it fell apart. And I think one of the core aspects, I think we knew, we'd had conversations. We used to have conversations sort of every year. We'd have a yearly blowout, and we'd laugh like, that was it. Our yearly blowout was done. But she, my wife would say she's like a volcano, bubble away and then explode. And I remember the year before we'd had the blowout, and I remember saying, and we were talking, and I said, if we don't keep communicating, then we're going to end up getting divorced. And a year later, we were separated, and 3 years later, we're divorced. I was thinking about it earlier, and I was thinking how that I was a coward because I never approached things, I never discussed things, and I realised I wasn't a coward. I was scared. There's a difference. There's a big difference between being a coward and being scared. And I was scared about losing everything, losing the house, losing my wife, losing my kids, losing everything. And whilst I've lost the stuff, I have now the best relationship with my kids I could ever hope for. My youngest says it every now and then when we're talking about things, and not now, but early on, I'd be like, I'm really sorry about the way things have turned out. And he said to me on more than one occasion, but if things hadn't happened the way they had, Dad, you wouldn't be the way you are, and we wouldn't be the way we are. And that reassures me that I'm on the right track. I will forever be grateful for my wife doing what she did, because I think there's nothing worse than a family home with two parents who, get to a point where they just hate each other, and that kind of environment for the kids is just poisonous. So, without her courage in pushing things in the way they went, we wouldn't be here now. I don't think I'd be here now. There were times when I just felt that I hated myself so much that they would just all be better off without me. And that would be the easier way out, because I had the pension, I had the life insurance, they'd have the house paid off, that'd be fine. What would they just miss? This horrible, horrible man who was just always moaning and always angry. It's a strange old way to think about things, isn't it? Considering where I am now. Next time, what would I do next time differently? That was the going to be the thing, wasn't it? Oh God, I can't even imagine there being the next time. I can't even conceive of having a relationship again right now. I can't imagine going through the dating process, the courting process, whatever you want to call it. That whole process. I don't know where I would have time to fit somebody in my life, especially not now. I'm too focused on trying to get myself right financially, spending time with my kids when I can, having good times with them, and working on myself, get myself straight, get my own self right. Well, not right, but continually moving forward. The key, if there is any relationship in the future, is absolutely communication. And it's such a cliche, whether it's in personal life or business or whatever, communication. But what does that look like? That looks like regular, almost structured catch-ups with the other half. At the end of the day, how are you getting on today? What's going on in your world? Can we talk about things? Can we talk about this? Can we talk about that? Let's talk about where we are financially right now. Actually communicating, because that it's just such a key thing to do. And I feel infinitely more confident now in myself and my own abilities to talk about these things than I ever did in the past, ever. And I wouldn't have that without having gone through what I've gone through, I guess. There we go. Thank you for listening. If you've stuck with me, please check out my other videos. There's going to be quite a lot coming down the pipe, I think. I'd love to know what some of you guys have gone through and what things you've taken out of, be they relationships falling apart or marriages or things like that, and what you've learned about yourself and what you would do differently next time. So thanks again. Take care. I'll see you soon.